Slayers are a massive part of Hypixel Skyblock, and to be specific, they have a pretty big effect on the economy. I'm sure lots of players would probably consider Slayers to be the main way of making money in Skyblock, which makes complete sense. It's one of the main things that makes up the combat skill. Some people even dedicate their entire profiles to a specific Slayer, chasing leaderboards and making billions of coins in the process. But I'm sure it's not just me who's noticed that, well, Slayers are just a bit mid. Well, definitely recently anyway. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you can't profit from Slayers, but the financial incentive of doing Slayers is kind of fading away. Warden Hearts at just 95 mil, Overflux capacitors less than 50, Judgment cores less than 200. The only question is, what is happening? Well, to be honest, it boils down to mainly one thing, and that one thing is the changes made to Habanero Tactics. Once again, don't get me wrong, I love Habanero Tactics, it's made me a lot of money, I can definitely attest to that. But the question we have to answer is it actually killing the Slayers economy? Well, we'll get to that in just a moment. But just before we do, at the moment we're actually trying to beat the population of Andorra with subscribers. The population of Andorra is around about 80,000 people, and once we reach 80,000 subscribers, we're actually going to be visiting Andorra, and we'll be able to claim that we have more subscribers than the population of the whole country, which would be pretty cool, so make sure to subscribe to make that happen. Also, if you are planning on purchasing anything from the Hypixel store, make sure to use code NITRO as it gets yourself 5% off. You should join the Discord server, it's linked in the description of this video with for Slayers and Dungeon carries, so if you need carries or want to carry and make some coins, make sure to join. Now, to some people, it seems like Habanero Tactics has appeared from nowhere and rose from the depths of absolute nothingness. With crazy good stats, meaning that you heal 7.5% more from wands, deal plus 25% damage on Slayer weapons, gain plus 5 combat wisdom with Slayer weapons, and with Smoldering Polarization, gain plus 15 magic find on your Slayer weapon. It's most definitely caught everybody's eye. Well, Habanero Tactics has been in the game for a long time, so why is it prominent now? Now, as I mentioned, Habanero Tactics has been in the game for ages. It was added to the game in August 2022, about 2.5 years ago. Nothing really changed since then up until, well, the end of January, but before that there was a slight change to the crafting recipe, but that's not really what we're looking at. For those of you who aren't aware, this is what Habanero Tactics 5 used to give in terms of buffs. 5 vitality, deal plus 1.05 times damage with Slayer weapons, and with Smoldering Polarization, gain 5 magic find. And of course now, we get more healing from wands, we deal way more damage with Slayer weapons, we get combat wisdom, and we also get 10 more magic find with Smoldering Polarization. So yeah, sure, technically, you know, Habanero Tactics has been in the game for ages, but nobody really ever used it because it was really weak and still quite expensive. But an enchantment being that strong is way too much to ignore. And to be honest, it's the reason why anyone mid-game and above who's been doing Slayers has turned to Habanero Tactics, because it's so good. Now, what you do have to remember is Habanero Tactics goes on, well, you can put it on each piece of armor, and it stacks. So, I've got 4 lots of Habanero Tactics 5. And if we just go back to the stats, you know, you can see why this is broken. And at the moment, to put it on a full set of armor, you're looking at around about 800 million coins, because realistically, it's going to be difficult to put an offer up, and they're probably not going to fill. Even so, you'd probably say, what, 100 mil there, on 4 pieces. But what is the result of Habanero Tactics being so strong? Well, let me tell you. Number 1, you're going to spawn bosses quicker because you get more combat wisdom. Number 2, you're going to be able to kill the bosses quicker because you deal way more damage to the bosses. And number 3, you're going to drop the rare drops more often because you have a ton of extra magic find. Meaning that Slayers are now easy to do, quicker to do, and easier, well, you've got more of a chance of dropping the rare drops that make you money. Which is a perfect recipe, well, for the high-end items to crash in price. People can do more bosses in the same period of time and drop, you know, those big items more frequently than they've ever used to be able to before. Now, on first glance, some people, rightly so, might be thinking 800 million coins on enchantments on an armor set, that's probably already worth a decent amount of money. Is it even worth it, and can you even pay that off? Well, you get a lot more magic find. It's 15 magic find per piece. 60 magic find is a humongous chunk of magic find just to gain out of nowhere. And if you just do a moderate amount of Slayers, I'm pretty sure you could make that pay off. Well, you might want to think twice about that, with pretty much all Slayer items, Slayer drops, just completely crashing in price. Now, something else that's pretty interesting is the crafting recipe for Habanero Tactics. And even the collection. You have to have Chili Pepper Collection 8 to be able to craft Habanero Tactic 4 books, which you can then craft together to make, well, Habanero Tactics 5. And to be completely honest, 10,000 Chili Pepper Collection is a lot. And it's expensive to get there, and it'll take a decent amount of time. The craft cost of a Habanero Tactics 5 is around about 160 million coins, give or take, meaning that anyone with 10k chili pepper collection can make a lot of money just from simply crafting Habanero Tactics books, because barely anyone has the collection. But it's even scarier because as people, start to realize you can make a lot of money from, crafting these Habanero Tactics books, more people will start to put minions down, more people will start to get the collection, meaning Habanero Tactics books over time will drop and drop and drop. They're not going to be cheap because they're so good, there's always going to be a good demand for it. But there's going to be more and more supply, and there's going to be more and more people able to craft them. Which is scary because, well, the prices of Rare Slayer items at the moment are already at absolute rock bottom. Now, having said all that, I love Habanero Tactics because it's so good. But at the same time, it's pretty obvious to say that it's having a pretty hard effect on the economy. And definitely making people think twice about, well, if doing Slayers is actually worth it as a viable money-making methods these days. Now, the answer to that can never really be determined considering, it's still RNG dependent. But it's honestly just kind of crazy to see what's happening. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to compare one of the main things that I think that you actually gain from Habanero Tactics, and that's the Magic Find. So it says that we should be getting basically 60 Magic Find on a full set, so we're going to see if that's actually what we get. Now, for us to benefit from this buff, we're going to need Smoldering Polarization, which is a gummy you can buy from the bazaar. Right-click it, and, well, there you go. We've got it for an hour, and we need a Slayer weapon. We're just going to... Well, I need to sword bind axe with the Shredded for Skyblock XP anyway, so I guess we're going to kill a Rev. First, using an armor set that doesn't have Habanero Tactics on, like for some reason I have completely plain Necron. I mean, that's going to work. Why not? Alright, so we killed a Rev, and our Magic Find is 179. Put our Habanero Tactics armor on, which means we should gain, well, in theory, 60 Magic Find from our Habanero Tactics. Also, this armor set has got Magic Find 8 on it, so we're going to need to account for that too, which is an extra 4 on each piece. So what we should see is a 76 Magic Find increase, and let's see if that's what happens. Well, that's exactly what we see. We now have 255 Magic Find, and I now realise that there would have been a much easier way of doing it. I could have just used this armor set, but not pops the gummy and then pops the gummy for the next boss. Regardless, it still shows the same thing. And that is a ridiculous amount of Magic Find. A ridiculous amount of Magic Find to gain from an enchantment. And this is, of course, without even considering the extra wisdom that you get, or the extra damage. Kind of crazy. This is completely off topic, but it's actually kind of cool that there's hotspots in the hub. For those people who can't even make it to the new area, that you can literally just hotspot in the hub. Okay, that's cool. Anyway. It'd be pretty interesting to see what you guys think in the comments, because there's a few different ways you can look at it. It's not always completely bad, something like this happening. But at the same time, it's weird considering these items that have been affected have always been relatively stable at pretty high prices. A lot of them have 50% down, half down. It's crazy to see.